Thank you for choosing Infidelity Tales Lab today. Your support means everything to us. Before we begin, we'd love to know, where in the world are you listening from? Now, let's dive into today's story. The blue glow of multiple computer monitors cast harsh shadows across Dale Cooper's face as he leaned forward in his home office chair, the leather creaking in protest. The digital clock on his desk blinked 3:02 a.m., but sleep was the furthest thing from his mind. His hands trembled slightly as he spread the surveillance photos across his desk, each image striking like a physical blow. The first photo showed the grand entrance of the St. Regis Hotel in downtown Boston. The timestamp read Thursday, 9:47 p.m. His wife Taylor Price's elegant figure was unmistakable in her charcoal gray suit as she crossed the marble lobby, her dark hair falling in waves past her shoulders. Not at her medical conference venue, as she'd claimed, but 30 miles away from where she was supposed to be. The second photo made his stomach clench. Through the hotel bar's window, Taylor sat close to Matthew McLaughlin, Meridian Pharmaceutical CEO. Too close. Her hand rested on his arm, her wedding ring catching the light. McLaughlin leaned in, whispering something that made her throw her head back in laughter. The third photo, Dale pushed it away, unable to look at it again. The hotel room key card, the elevator, McLaughlin's hand on the small of Taylor's back. He didn't need to see the rest of the sequence to know where they went. His phone buzzed, making him start. Agent Roxanne Herman's name flashed on the screen. He took a deep breath, trying to steady his voice before answering. "You're still up?" Roxanne said. "Not a question. You knew." The accusation slipped out before he could stop it. A long pause followed. "We had suspicions. Needed confirmation before telling you." "How long?" "Dale. How long?" Another pause. "First surveillance photo was taken 6 weeks ago, but there were signs before that." Dale ran a hand over his face, feeling the rough stubble of 3 days without shaving. "You should have told me immediately. Like you told me immediately about bringing Taylor into the investigation." Roxanne's voice carried an edge now. "I warned you, Dale. Personal and professional don't mix." Those are my exact words. The memory hit him with painful clarity. 18 months ago, in Roxanne's office, arguing his case. He'd been so confident, so sure of himself and his marriage. "Taylor's position is perfect," he'd insisted. "Head of clinical research, she has access to all the trial data. She can help us decode the medical documents, track the money through the research department." "It's too risky," Roxanne had countered, pacing behind her desk. "If anything goes wrong." "It won't. I trust her completely." Now, staring at the photos, those words tasted like ashes in his mouth. "I need to know everything," Dale said into the phone. "No more holding back. Come to the office. First thing tomorrow." "No. Now. Dale. I've been under deep cover for 3 years, Rox. My wife is sleeping with our primary target and God knows what else. I think I've earned some answers at 3 a.m. A sigh. "Fine. Give me 20 minutes to get there." The FBI's field office was eerily quiet at this hour, their footsteps echoing through empty corridors. Roxanne's office looked different in the dim light, the walls of awards and commendations casting strange shadows. She pulled a thick file from her safe and spread its contents across her desk. It started with irregularities in the research department's security logs, she explained, pointing to highlighted entries. Taylor's access card was being used at odd hours, accessing files unrelated to her department. "She's been helping me gather evidence," Dale protested, but his voice lacked conviction. "These weren't trial documents." Roxanne pulled out another report. "Personnel files. Specifically, employees in the Asian offices who later disappeared." Dale's mind raced back through conversations with Taylor over the past months. Her increased tension, the late nights, the changed phone password. He'd attributed it all to stress from their undercover work. What a fool he'd been. "There's more," Roxanne continued, hesitating before pulling out another document. "We've been monitoring McLaughlin's private accounts. Large transfers to offshore accounts, tagged for consulting fees. The dates matched Taylor's international trips." The implication hit Dale like a physical blow. "She's been on his payroll? The whole time?" "We think longer." Roxanne's voice was gentle now. "Dale, We found records dating back to before you went undercover. Before you even met her. The room seemed to tilt sideways. Dale gripped the edge of the desk, his knuckles white. That's not possible. We met at a medical conference in Chicago. It was completely random. Was it? Roxanne slid another photo across the desk. Taylor at another conference 6 months before Chicago, speaking with McLaughlin. Dale pushed back from the desk abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. He began to pace, his mind racing through every moment, every memory, looking for signs he should have seen. Their first meeting, Taylor spilling coffee on him, so apologetic, so charming. Their whirlwind romance. Her excitement when he mentioned his new job at Meridian. Had it all been calculated? Had any of it been real? A knock at the door made them both jump. Agent Sarah Chin entered, carrying a laptop. Sorry to interrupt, she said, but you need to see this. Judith McNeil just made contact. Judith McNeil, McLaughlin's assistant turned confidential informant, appeared on the screen via a secure connection. Her usual composed demeanor was cracked, anxiety clear in her expression. Something's happening, she said without preamble. Taylor's been in McLaughlin's office for hours. They're going through the secure servers, downloading massive amounts of data. Dale leaned closer to the screen. What kind of data? Everything. Trial documents, personnel files, financial records. But she's focusing on the Asian operations. Specifically, the employees who vanished in the past year. How many? Roxanne asked. 12 so far. All of them had raised concerns about the trial protocols. Ethical violations, falsified data, dangerous side effects that were being covered up. Dale's mind flashed to conversations with Taylor about the trials. Her casual dismissal of the concerns. Her insistence that everything was being handled properly. Had she already known about the disappearances then? Had she helped plan them? There's something else, Judith continued, her voice dropping. I overheard Taylor on the phone earlier. She mentioned a cleanup operation scheduled for tomorrow night. And she mentioned your name, Dale. The room fell silent. Dale felt Roxanne's eyes on him, but he kept his gaze fixed on the screen. Send us everything you have, he said finally. And Judith? Be careful. After ending the call, Dale stood at the window, watching the first hints of dawn color the sky. His FBI training kicked in, pushing personal feelings aside, focusing on operational security. We need to move up the timeline, he said. If they're spooked enough to start cleaning house. No. Roxanne's voice was firm. We stick to the plan. We don't have enough evidence yet to take down the whole operation. They're going to start destroying evidence. And we'll catch them in the act. But we need to be smart about this. Dale turned to face her. Smart? Like I was smart about Taylor? Roxanne's expression softened. Dale, you couldn't have known. I should have. All those late nights, the changed passwords, the mysterious calls. He laughed bitterly. I actually thought she was helping decode the trial documents. Instead, she was... He couldn't finish the sentence. Focus on the job, Roxanne advised. That's all you can do right now. Dale nodded, his jaw set. I need to get back. I have a breakfast meeting with McLaughlin in 3 hours. Are you sure you can handle it? I'm still his CFO. Still deep cover. Dale managed a grim smile. Besides, I want to look him in the eye. The drive back to his house was surreal. The early morning streets were empty, the sky lightening to a pale gray. Dale parked in the driveway, staring at the house he shared with Taylor. Their dream home, with its perfectly manicured lawn and wraparound porch. All part of their cover story, the successful pharmaceutical executives living the American dream. Inside, he heard Taylor in the kitchen. The familiar sounds of coffee brewing, cupboards opening and closing. How many mornings had they shared like this? How many kisses, conversations, moments he'd thought were real? You're up early, Taylor said as he entered, not turning from the coffee maker. Her voice was perfectly normal, loving even. Trouble sleeping? Something like that? Dale watched her, looking for signs, tells, anything to indicate the magnitude of her deception. But her movements were smooth, practiced, betraying nothing. I was thinking about dinner tonight, she continued, finally turning to face him. That new Italian place downtown? We could celebrate your meeting with Matthew, going well. The casual use of McLaughlin's first name hit Dale like a slap. Had she always called him Matthew? Had he just never noticed? Can't tonight, he managed. Late meeting with the Asia team. Something flickered in Taylor's eyes. Concern? Warning? But it was gone so quickly he might have imagined it. That's too bad. She crossed the kitchen, pressing a kiss to his cheek. Her perfume, the same one she'd worn since they met, suddenly seemed cloying. Rain check. Dale forced himself to smile, to lean in her kiss like he always did. Rain check. She headed upstairs to get ready for work, her heels clicking on the hardwood floors. Dale waited until he heard the shower running before pulling out his phone. I need a team on her today, he texted Roxanne. Every move? The response came quickly, already on it. Be careful. The morning passed in a blur of meetings and conference calls, Dale playing his role as the diligent CFO while his mind raced with possibilities. Every interaction took on new meaning, every conversation potentially hiding double meanings. McLaughlin's breakfast meeting was the worst. Sitting across from him at their usual table at the St. Regis, the same hotel from the surveillance photos, watching him casually discuss quarterly projections as if he hadn't been with Dale's wife just days ago in this same building. Everything all right, Dale? McLaughlin asked, noticing his distraction. You seem tired. Dale forced a laugh. Late night with the Asia numbers. You know how it is? Ah, yes. McLaughlin's smile didn't reach his eyes. Asia's been keeping us all busy lately. The double meaning wasn't lost on Dale. He wondered if McLaughlin knew that he knew, if this was all some elaborate game of cat and mouse. The thought made him feel sick. Back at the office, Dale buried himself in work, trying to maintain his cover while gathering what information he could. But everywhere he looked, he saw signs of Taylor's involvement. Her signature on key documents, her name in meeting minutes, her fingerprints all over the company's darkest secrets. A text from an unknown number made his phone buzz mid-afternoon. Parking garage. Level B2. 15 minutes. Important. Judith. Dale deleted the message immediately, his heart rate picking up. This wasn't part of their usual communication protocol. Something must be wrong. The parking garage was dimly lit, the fluorescent lights creating pools of sickly yellow illumination between long shadows. Dale's footsteps echoed as he made his way to Level B2, every sense on high alert. Judith emerged from behind a concrete pillar, looking nervous. Sorry for the irregular contact, but this couldn't wait. What's wrong? Taylor's been accessing more files. Not just the trial documents anymore. She's going through personnel files, security protocols, communication logs. Judith lowered her voice. She's looking for patterns. People who might be working with law enforcement. Dale kept his expression neutral, though his pulse quickened. Any particular focus? Asian employees who've raised concerns. And Judith hesitated. She's paying special attention to your department. Your team's travel records, expense reports, phone logs. She suspects something. I think she more than suspects. Judith glanced around nervously. Dale, those employees who disappeared? They didn't just vanish. There's a pattern. First, their files get flagged for review, then they get called to special meetings, usually in remote locations. After that, Dale's mind raced. How many flags has she raised recently? 3 in the past week. 2 researchers in the Shanghai office, and she met his eyes. Your assistant, Michael. Michael Chun, who'd been helping Dale gather evidence on the illegal trials, who had access to some of their most sensitive intelligence. When's his meeting scheduled? Tomorrow morning. Shanghai office. Dale started to respond, but movement in his peripheral vision made him freeze. A shadow where there shouldn't be one. The faint scuff of a shoe on concrete. Get out of here, he whispered to Judith. Now. She didn't argue, disappearing behind a row of cars just as the first attacker emerged. Dale recognized him immediately. Julian Huber, head of McLaughlin's private security team. Behind him, 2 more men spread out, cutting off escape routes. Mr. Cooper, Huber said pleasantly. Having a nice chat? Dale shifted his weight, evaluating options. 3 trained security personnel, probably armed. Limited cover. No backup. Just discussing parking validation, Dale replied, matching Huber's casual tone. These garage fees are killer. Funny guy? Huber's smile disappeared. But I don't think Ms. Price will find this situation amusing at all. The mention of Taylor confirmed Dale's fears. This wasn't a random security check. This was a message. The first punch came from the left, faster than Dale expected. He managed to deflect it, turning the movement into a counterstrike that caught his attacker in the solar plexus. But Huber was already moving, and the third man had circled behind. Dale felt rather than saw the blow to his kidneys, driving him to one knee. He rolled with the impact, coming up in a fighting stance, but Huber was ready. The security chief's foot caught Dale's right arm with a sickening crack. Pain exploded through Dale's body as he hit the concrete. Through the haze of agony, he heard footsteps approaching. Familiar footsteps. The click of heels he'd heard every morning for the past 3 years. Taylor emerged from the shadows, her expression as cold as Dale had ever seen it. She looked down at him, and for a moment, he searched her face for any sign of the woman he'd married. Any trace of genuine emotion. "I'm sorry, Dale," she said, her voice devoid of warmth. "But you were getting too close. Matt couldn't risk it." Matt, not Matthew anymore. The casual intimacy of the nickname felt like another blow. "How long?" Dale managed through gritted teeth. "Does it matter?" Taylor's lips curved in a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You were so perfect, you know." The dedicated FBI agent, so convinced of his own righteousness. "Matt needed someone close to you, to watch you. And you made it so easy." Dale tried to push himself up, but his broken arm wouldn't support his weight. The conference in Chicago was perfectly planned, yes. The clumsy researcher spilling coffee on the handsome stranger. She laughed softly. "I thought that might have been a bit too obvious, but you never questioned it. You saw what you wanted to see. The employees you made disappear," Dale ground out. "Are they dead?" Something flickered in Taylor's eyes, the first genuine emotion he'd seen. "That's not your concern anymore." She nodded to Huber, who stepped forward with a syringe. Dale tried to move, to fight, but the pain in his arm made his vision blur. "Just something to help you rest," Taylor said, already turning away. "When you wake up, remember this conversation. Remember what happens to people who get too curious." The last thing Dale saw before the darkness took him was Taylor's retreating figure, her heels clicking on the concrete, the sound echoing through the garage like gunshots. The antiseptic smell of hospital disinfectant pulled Dale from unconsciousness. His eyelids felt heavy, and his right arm throbbed with a dull, persistent ache beneath layers of plaster and gauze. The heart rate monitor beside his bed beeped in steady rhythm, its green line dancing across the screen like a mocking reminder of his still-beating heart. Through the haze of pain medication, Dale methodically cataloged his surroundings, falling back on his FBI training. Private room on the 3rd floor, based on the view. Security camera in the upper right corner, standard hospital model. Window overlooking the parking lot, potential entry or exit point but risky with a broken arm. Standard issue hospital bed positioned against the interior wall. His right arm was encased in a pristine white cast, elevated on a stack of pillows that didn't quite mask the deep ache. A nurse entered, her rubber-soled shoes squeaking softly on the linoleum floor. Her ID badge read, Sarah Mitchell, RN, as she moved efficiently around his bed, checking monitors and adjusting equipment. "Good to see you awake, Mr. Cooper," she said, recording his vitals on a tablet. "How's the pain level?" Scale of 1 to 10. 4, Dale lied, the throbbing closer to a 7. "How long was I out?" "About 12 hours. The police are waiting to take your statement about the garage incident." She adjusted his foredrip with practiced hands. "And you've had quite a few visitors from Meridian Pharmaceuticals asking about you." Very persistent bunch. Dale kept his expression neutral, though his mind raced through implications. 12 hours of unconsciousness meant 12 hours of vulnerability. Had Judith made it out of the garage safely? Had Taylor accessed any sensitive files while he was under? Had any other agents been compromised? The door opened again, the heavy wooden panel swinging wide as Spencer Gill strode in like he owned the place. Meridian's head of Asian operations cut an imposing figure in his tailored charcoal suit, his silver hair perfectly styled despite the early hour. A gold Rolex glinted at his wrist as he straightened his French cuffs, a man who wore his power like a second skin. "Give us the room," he ordered the nurse, his tone brooking no argument. She hesitated briefly, glancing at Dale, before gathering her tablet and leaving. Dale watched Gil settle into the visitor's chair, noting the man's relaxed posture, the hint of amusement playing at the corners of his mouth. This wasn't a courtesy call. This was a performance. "Your wife sends her regards," Gil said, his voice dripping with false sympathy. "Terrible accident, falling down those garage stairs. You really should be more careful." He smoothed an invisible wrinkle from his trousers. "Though I hear the security cameras mysteriously malfunctioned during your mishap. Is that the official story?" Dale's throat felt dry, but he kept his voice steady. "For now." Gil's smile widened, showing too many teeth. "Taylor's quite resourceful, isn't she? Always knows exactly how to handle situations. She's been an invaluable asset to our organization. The way she manages our more delicate matters." He leaned forward slightly. "Every major investor has enjoyed her hospitality. Even your cousin Leonard." Dale's heart rate spiked, though years of training kept the monitor's rhythm steady. Leonard Nguyen wasn't his cousin. He was another undercover FBI agent, embedded in Meridian's investor relations department for the past 18 months. If Taylor had compromised his cover, "I don't know what you're talking about," Dale managed, keeping his voice level despite the growing knot in his stomach. "No." Gil pulled out his phone, manicured fingers scrolling through photos with deliberate slowness. "Here's Taylor with Leonard at last month's investor dinner. They seemed quite cozy, though not as cozy as she gets with Matthew, of course." He turned the phone, showing Dale a high-resolution photo of Taylor laughing at something Leonard was saying, her hand resting on his arm. Dale forced himself to look at the photo, analyzing details through the lens of his training. Leonard maintained his cover perfectly, playing the role of the wealthy investor. But now the careful distance he kept from Taylor made more sense. The way he always positioned himself just slightly out of her reach, how he directed conversation toward others when never possible. Had he suspected something even then? "If you're trying to make me jealous," Dale said, "you're wasting your time. My wife's social skills are part of her job." Gil chuckled, the sound dark and knowing. "Jealousy is the least of your concerns right now. You see, Taylor's been very thorough in documenting everything. Every meeting, every transaction, every little indiscretion. Insurance, she calls it. Very professional, very detailed." He pocketed his phone. "She learned that from Matthew, I suppose. Always keep leverage on everyone." A knock at the door interrupted them. Agent Roxanne Herman entered, her FBI badge prominently displayed on her blazer. Her eyes swept the room, taking in the scene with practiced efficiency. "Mr. Gill," she said coolly, "I need to speak with Mr. Cooper about the assault investigation." Gill stood smoothly, adjusting his already perfect suit. "Of course. I was just leaving." He paused at the door, looking back at Dale. "Think about what I said, Dale. About being careful. Stairs can be so treacherous." Once the door closed, Roxanne quickly swept the room for listening devices while maintaining a loud conversation about the assault investigation. Finding nothing, she lowered her voice to barely above a whisper. "Leonard's cover is intact," she murmured, positioning herself to block the security camera's view of her face. "But Taylor's been asking questions, probing his background story, checking his references. She's trying to verify his connection to you. She has photos of them together at events. We know." Leonard reported every interaction. He thinks she was testing him, watching his reactions when she touched him or got too close. Roxanne's expression darkened. "She's smart, Dale. Smarter than we gave her credit for. The way she's been documenting everything, building insurance files. This isn't just about an affair with McLaughlin. She's been playing a longer game." "The Asian employees," Dale said, his right arm throbbing as he shifted position. "Did we? We got to Michael in time. He's safe in a safe house. But the others?" Roxanne shook her head. "We're still looking. The trail goes cold after they're called to meetings in remote locations. No bodies, no evidence. They just vanish." The door burst open before Dale could respond, the heavy panels slamming against the wall. Matthew McLaughlin entered, flanked by two security guards who positioned themselves on either side of the door. The CEO's usual polished appearance was slightly disheveled, tie loosened, collar open, a faint sheen of sweat on his forehead. His eyes burned with an intensity Dale had never seen before. "Out!" He barked at Roxanne, his voice sharp with authority. I'm conducting an official investigation. Out! McLaughlin's voice cracked like a whip. Or I'll have hospital security remove you. This is a private facility, and Mr. Cooper is still a Meridian employee. I have every right to speak with him. Roxanne met Dale's eyes briefly before leaving, a silent message passing between them. Be careful. The door closed with a soft click that seemed to echo in the sudden silence. McLaughlin waited a full 30 seconds, presumably for Roxanne to move out of earshot before approaching Dale's bed. Without warning, he threw a manila envelope onto Dale's lap, photos spilling across the white hospital blanket. Surveillance shots of Dale meeting with Judith in the parking garage, with Roxanne at a cafe, with other FBI agents in various locations over the past months. Resign now, McLaughlin demanded, his voice tight with controlled fury. Walk away from Meridian, sign an NDA, and we'll call it even. Your wife's already chosen her side. Smart woman. He gestured to the photos. Or we can discuss what happens to people who spy on my company. Dale studied the photos, his mind working through implications. The surveillance meant they suspected him, but didn't have concrete proof of his FBI connection. If they'd had that, this conversation would be very different, and probably taking place in a much less public setting. These could be anything, Dale said carefully, keeping his voice neutral. Business meetings, consultations with potential clients. Don't insult my intelligence. McLaughlin leaned closer, close enough that Dale could smell expensive cologne and what might have been scotch on his breath. Next time we break more than bones. And believe me, there are so many bones we haven't touched yet. His eyes flicked to Dale's cast. This was a warning. The next one won't be so gentle. Is that what happened to the whistleblowers? Dale met McLaughlin's gaze steadily. Broken bones until they disappeared? Something flickered in McLaughlin's eyes. Surprise? Concern? Before his mask of control slammed back into place. For a fraction of a second, Dale saw uncertainty there. McLaughlin hadn't expected him to know about the whistleblowers. I don't know what you're talking about. The CEO straightened, adjusting his tie with slightly unsteady hands. You have 24 hours to submit your resignation. After that, he shrugged, the gesture almost elegant in its menace. Accidents happen. Ask your wife. She's quite knowledgeable about unfortunate accidents. After McLaughlin left, Dale waited 5 minutes before pressing the call button. A different nurse entered, younger male, with close-cropped dark hair and the kind of steady movements that marked him as law enforcement. Dale recognized him as one of Roxanne's team, though they'd never officially met. I need my phone, Dale said meaningfully. The nurse nodded, pulling a secure phone from his pocket. Agent Herman left this for you. Any messages? Tell her to check the office cameras from last Thursday. Focus on Taylor's access to the secure servers. Dale kept his voice low, conscious of potential surveillance. And get me everything on Spencer Gill's movements in Asia for the past year. Every trip, every meeting, every contact. The nurse made notes on his pad, maintaining his cover. Your medication might make you drowsy. Try to rest. Dale closed his eyes, appearing to drift off, but his mind was racing. McLaughlin's threat felt rushed, desperate. Something had spooked them. Something beyond just suspecting his FBI connection. But what? The answer came after midnight, when the hospital corridors were quiet and the night shift had settled into their routine. Dale heard the soft click of his door opening and tensed, reaching for the alert button, but relaxed when he recognized Judith McNeil's slight figure slipping into his room. She looked different from their last meeting in the garage. Her usual professional attire replaced by dark clothes, her face pale with stress, her movements quick and nervous. She glanced constantly at the door as she approached his bed. You shouldn't be here, Dale said quietly, noting the tremor in her hands. They know. Judith's voice shook slightly as she perched on the edge of the visitor's chair. About the FBI investigation. Not everything, but enough. Taylor's been going through old security footage, cross-referencing visitor logs. She's close to identifying your team. Dale's grip tightened on his blanket. How much time do we have? Less than you think. Judith glanced nervously at the door again. Taylor's planning to leave the country tonight. McLaughlin's arranged everything. New identity, new papers, secure location somewhere they can't be extradited. She twisted her hands together. They're meeting at his private airstrip. When? 3 a.m. She has evidence against everyone, including details of the FBI operation. Files, photos, recordings. Judith wrung her hands, her wedding ring catching the dim light. She's going to trade it all for immunity with a foreign government. Once she does that, the whole operation will be compromised, Dale finished. Years of work, dozens of agents and informants exposed, countless lives at risk. All because he'd trusted the wrong person. Because he'd let personal and professional mix, just as Roxanne had warned him not to. Get somewhere safe, he told Judith. Now, don't go home. Don't go to work. Just disappear for a few hours. Judith nodded and slipped out as quietly as she'd come. Dale waited until the sound of her footsteps faded before reaching for the secure phone, dialing Roxanne's number from memory. She answered on the first ring. What's wrong? Change of plans, he said, his voice tight with urgency. We move tonight. You're in no condition. Taylor's running. Tonight. With everything she has on us. Dale pushed himself up straighter, ignoring the pain that shot through his arm. McLaughlin's private airstrip. 3 a.m. A long pause followed, filled only by the soft sound of Roxanne's breathing. How solid is the intel? Judith. She came here personally to warn me. She was scared, Rox. Really scared. Damn it. Keys clicked in the background as Roxanne typed. This changes everything. If Taylor has proof of our operation. I know. More typing, followed by a sharp intake of breath. Gil's been making calls to Shanghai all day. Private jet just filed a flight plan. It fits. Dale closed his eyes, seeing again the cold look in Taylor's eyes as she'd watched him lying injured in the garage. Had she been planning this even then? Had everything, their entire marriage, been building to this moment? Dale? Roxanne's voice softened. Are you sure about this? About tonight? He thought of the surveillance photos of Taylor with McLaughlin, of all the lies and betrayals layered one on top of another. He thought of the missing employees, of the families waiting for answers, of the lives at stake. Make the calls, he said finally. Get everyone in position. We end this tonight. Okay. A pause. I'll handle everything. Just be careful, Dale. Don't let it get personal. Dale almost laughed at that. Personal. As if anything could be more personal than discovering your entire marriage was an elaborate cover story. As if watching your wife help coordinate disappearances and betrayals wasn't the most personal thing in the world. Just get the team ready, he said instead. We have less than 3 hours. He ended the call and stared out the window at the night sky, his broken arm a constant reminder of how badly he'd misjudged everything. In 3 hours, he'd face Taylor again. In 3 hours, everything would change. But this time, he'd be ready. The private airstrip's floodlights cast harsh shadows across the tarmac as Dale Cooper watched through binoculars from his position in the tree line. His broken arm throbbed beneath the lightweight tactical sling that had replaced the hospital cast. But he pushed the pain aside, focusing on the Gulfstream G650 being prepped for takeoff. Ground crews scurried around the aircraft like ants, performing final checks under the watchful eyes of McLaughlin's security team. Echo team in position, crackled Agent Sarah Chin's voice through his earpiece. Surveillance cameras active. We have eyes on all entry points. Copy. Roxanne responded from her command post. Delta team? Perimeter secured, came another voice. No sign of local law enforcement. McLaughlin's people must have arranged that. Dale adjusted his position behind the cover of dense foliage, careful not to rustle any branches. The irony wasn't lost on him. Here he was, hiding in bushes to surveil his own wife. Just like those first surveillance photos that had started this whole unraveling. Except this time, he wasn't the one being deceived. Leonard Nguyen's voice came through next, calm and professional. I'm on the flight deck. Real pilots secured in the hangar, still unconscious from the sedative. Flight plans logged for Shanghai, just as our intel suggested. Remember, Roxanne's voice carried the weight of command. We need visual confirmation of the evidence exchange. If we move too early, they'll claim it was a business meeting. Chun, are the cameras? Multiple angles covered, Sarah confirmed. High res, night vision, everything admissible in court. A pair of headlights swept across the airstrip as a black Bentley approached the private terminal. Dale's grip tightened on the binoculars. Matthew McLaughlin stepped out first, immaculate in a charcoal suit despite the late hour. He circled to the passenger side, opening the door with practiced gallantry. Taylor emerged, and Dale's breath caught despite himself. She wore the same cream-colored suit she'd worn the day they first met, her dark hair falling in perfect waves past her shoulders. The attaché case in her right hand might as well have been handcuffed to her wrist. Visual on primary targets, Dale murmured into his comm, moving toward the aircraft. Attaché case present. Wait for the exchange, Roxanne reminded everyone. We need them red-handed. Dale watched through the binoculars as Taylor and McLaughlin approached the plane. They moved with the easy intimacy of longtime lovers, his hand resting casually on the small of her back. Had they always been this obvious? Had he just been too blind to see? I have movement in the hangar, Sarah reported suddenly. Two figures armed. Looks like Gill and Huber. Spencer Gill emerged from the shadows, Julian Huber close behind. The head of Asian operations carried his own briefcase, while Huber's hand rested near the obvious bulge of a shoulder holster. Careful, Dale warned. Huber's likely not alone. His team never operates without backup. Confirmed, came another agent's voice. 3 more armed individuals identified at the perimeter. Standard private security loadout. The group converged at the base of the aircraft stairs. Dale adjusted his focus, watching Taylor's expressions, reading her lips as she spoke. 3 years of marriage had taught him her tells. The slight tilt of her head when she was being calculating, the way she shifted her weight when preparing for something significant. Starting the exchange, he reported as Taylor set her attaché case on a small folding table Huber had produced. Stand by. McLaughlin spoke first, his words carrying faintly across the tarmac. Everything we discussed? Complete dossiers, Taylor replied, her voice clinical and professional. FBI operations in 3 countries, including deep cover agents, informants, and evidence chains. She unlatched the case, plus the original trial data showing exactly how we handled the whistleblowers. Show me. Taylor spread several files across the table. Even from this distance, Dale recognized some of the documents. Case files he'd helped build, surveillance photos of FBI operations, personnel records of undercover agents. Years of careful work, dozens of lives, all laid out like playing cards. Holy shit, Sarah breathed through the comm, the extent of her access. She has everything. Not everything, Dale muttered. She doesn't know about the cameras recording her right now. Gill stepped forward, examining the documents with practiced efficiency. The Asian facility records? Including detailed locations of all our reluctant former employees. Taylor's smile was sharp in the floodlights. Everything you need to ensure loose and stay tied. All units, maintain position, Roxanne ordered as several agents shifted restlessly. Wait for my mark. McLaughlin nodded to Gill, who opened his own briefcase. As promised, new identity packages. Swiss and Cayman accounts already funded. Contact protocols for your handlers in Shanghai. He slid the documents across the table. Once you land, you'll be FBI. Freeze! The shout came from the darkness as floodlights suddenly blazed to life, bathing the scene in stark white illumination. FBI tactical teams emerged from multiple positions, weapons trained on the group. Hands where we can see them. Roxanne's voice boomed through a megaphone. Step away from the table. The next few seconds exploded into controlled chaos. Huber reached for his weapon, but froze as red laser sights danced across his chest. Gill tried to grab the briefcase, but was tackled by 2 agents. McLaughlin stood absolutely still, his face a mask of cold fury. Taylor's reaction was pure ice. She didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't show any surprise at all. Instead, she turned slowly, scanning the perimeter until her eyes found Dale's position. Well, honey, she called out, her voice carrying clearly across the tarmac. Enjoying the show? Did you really think I didn't know you'd be here? Dale emerged from his cover, approaching the scene with measured steps. Like you knew about the cameras recording everything? The backup teams? Leonard in the cockpit? That last bit finally cracked her composure. Taylor's head snapped toward the aircraft, where Leonard had appeared in the doorway, his FBI tactical vest now clearly visible. "Good riddance, honey," she sneered, but Dale heard the slight tremor in her voice. "Better luck with your next wife. You should have checked the pilot's credentials more carefully." Dale allowed himself a small smile as more agents moved in to secure the suspects. "But then, you always did underestimate family connections." Leonard gave a small salute from the cockpit, and Dale saw the exact moment Taylor understood how completely she'd been outplayed. The look of betrayal that flashed across her face almost matched what Dale had felt in that parking garage. Almost. "Read them their rights," Roxanne ordered, approaching with her weapons still drawn. "Secure all documents and devices." As agents zip-tied the suspects, Dale watched Taylor's mask finally crack. Her carefully constructed world was crumbling, and for the first time, he saw real emotion in her eyes, fear. "You don't understand," she said as an agent secured her hands behind her back. "Those people, the ones who disappeared, they were going to expose everything. The trials, the deaths, the—" "Save it for your lawyer," Roxanne cut her off. "You'll have plenty of time to explain everything, including how you acquired classified FBI files." McLaughlin, being cuffed nearby, suddenly laughed. "You think this changes anything? Our lawyers will have us out by morning." Her word against ours, and all the evidence mysteriously corrupted. "Actually," Judith McNeil's voice rang out as she emerged from the shadows, flanked by 2 agents. "I think my evidence might change that calculation." She held up a thumb drive. Every email, every transaction, every conversation about what really happened to those whistleblowers. "I've been documenting everything since the first person disappeared." McLaughlin's face went ash gray. "You little—" "Book them," Roxanne ordered. "All of them." Dawn was breaking by the time the scene was fully processed. Dale sat in the back of a tactical van, watching through the open doors as evidence was cataloged and suspects were transported. His arm ached fiercely, but he barely noticed. "You okay?" Roxanne asked, settling beside him with 2 cups of coffee. "Ask me in 6 months?" She smiled slightly. "Speaking of which," she handed him a newspaper, the ink still wet. The headline blazed across the front page. "Pharmaceutical CEO and Chief Researcher Arrested in Massive Conspiracy." Dale scanned the article, noting the careful way it laid out the charges without compromising ongoing operations. "Taylor's already trying to make a deal." "Tried," Roxanne corrected. "But your recordings of her organizing the disappearances killed any leverage she had." McLaughlin's attempt to blame everything on her backfired when Judith produced those emails. "They're both looking at 25 years minimum. No parole. And the victims?" Roxanne's expression softened. "The whistleblowers Taylor helped disappear? All found alive. Traumatized, but alive. Your recordings gave us their locations. Hidden in research facilities across Asia. We're bringing them home now." Dale nodded, relief washing through him. At least some good had come from all this. At least some families would get answers, get closure. "You should get that arm checked," Roxanne said, gesturing to his sling. "Now that it's over." "It's not over," Dale interrupted. "Not yet. I need to understand. Why? Was any of it real?" "Dale!" I know. It doesn't matter now. But—" he stared at the newspaper photo of Taylor being led away in handcuffs. 3 years, Rox. 3 years of marriage, of sharing a life, of building trust. How do you fake that? "Some people are just very good at playing roles," Roxanne said gently. "At becoming whoever they need to be." "Yeah." Dale touched his cast through the tactical sling. At least the break was clean, unlike everything else. 6 months later, Dale sat in a quiet bar, nursing a whiskey as he watched Taylor's sentencing play out on the wall-mounted TV. The sound was muted, but the headlines told the story. 25 years for both her and McLaughlin. No deals, no reduced sentences. "You're brooding," Roxanne said, sliding onto the bar stool next to him. "Thinking," he corrected, "about clean breaks and healing wrong. Deep." She signaled the bartender. "How's the arm?" Dale rotated his right wrist, testing the range of motion. The break had healed well, stronger than before. Unlike his marriage, unlike his trust, The bone had mended cleanly. Better, he said finally. Getting stronger every day. And you? He considered the question, really considered it. The betrayal still ached, but differently now. Like an old injury that predicted rain. Present, but no longer debilitating. Same, he said, finishing his drink. Getting stronger every day. Through the bar's window, he could see his reflection in the darkened glass. He looked different than he had 6 months ago. Harder in some ways, but more certain. The break had been clean, after all. And sometimes he was learning things healed stronger at the broken places. 5 years later, the high-security wing of the Federal Correctional Institution in Dublin, California, looked exactly as it had during Dale Cooper's last visit 3 years ago. The same stark walls, the same fluorescent lighting, the same hollow echo of footsteps on polished floors. He hadn't planned on returning, but Roxanne's call had changed that. "Taylor's asking for you," she'd said. "Says she has information about other operations we missed." The guard led Dale through familiar security checkpoints. His right arm passed easily through the metal detector. The break had healed years ago, leaving only occasional twinges during cold weather to remind him of that night in the parking garage. Taylor Price, she'd kept his last name, ironically, sat at the metal table in the interview room. Prison hadn't been kind to her. The designer suits were replaced by standard-issue khaki, her once perfect hair now streaked with gray. But her eyes were the same, calculating, always measuring angles. "You look good," she said as Dale sat across from her. "Private sector agrees with you. Cut the small talk." Dale placed his recorder on the table. "Roxanne says you have information. Always business." Taylor's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Did you know Matthew tried to hang himself last month? In his cell at Lompoc. Failed, of course. Like everything else lately." Dale said nothing. He'd heard about McLaughlin's suicide attempt through official channels. The former CEO had deteriorated rapidly after his appeals were denied, especially after evidence emerged linking Meridian to 3 more deaths in their Asian facilities. 5 years, Taylor continued, studying her hands. 5 years in here, watching everything we built crumble. The company sold for parts. Our research buried. All those breakthroughs lost. You mean the illegal human trials? The murdered whistleblowers? We were changing the world. Taylor snapped, the first crack in her composure. Those drugs could have saved millions. A few sacrifices. Save it for your next parole hearing. Dale tapped the recorder. "You said you had information. Share it or I'm leaving." Taylor leaned back, her chains rattling slightly. Spencer Gill didn't work alone in Asia. We had government officials, other pharmaceutical companies, a whole network. We know. Judith McNeil's evidence exposed everything. That's why your sentence got extended to 30 years. Judith. Taylor's laugh was bitter. My perfect assistant. Did you know she's running the reformulated company now? Meridian Biotech, clean and ethical. She married Leonard last year, didn't she? Dale nodded. The wedding had been small, but joyful. Judith and Leonard had found something real in the aftermath of the investigation, building a relationship based on truth rather than deception. Their leadership of the Reform Meridian had helped restore jobs and legitimate research programs. And Roxanne? Taylor's voice turned probing. Still running the FBI's corporate crime division? I heard she made deputy director. I'm not here to update you on everyone's lives. No. Taylor tilted her head. Then why are you here, Dale? We both know I don't have any new information. You've squeezed every lead, every contact, every secret from our operation. So why come when I called? Dale studied the woman he'd once loved, or thought he'd loved. The woman who'd played him for 3 years, who'd helped coordinate disappearances and deaths, who'd betrayed everything he believed in. Closure, maybe, he said finally. Understanding. Ah. Taylor's smile turned knowing. Still trying to figure out if any of it was real? If I ever actually loved you? Did you? Would it make a difference now? Dale stood, gathering his recorder. Goodbye, Taylor. I did, you know. Her voice stopped him at the door. Love you. In my way. But I love power more. The control, the influence, the empire we were building. She shrugged. Matthew understood that. You never did. No, Dale agreed. I didn't. He left her there, surrounded by concrete and steel, and walked into the California sunshine. His phone buzzed with a text from Sarah Chun, now his partner at their private security consulting firm. Client meeting at 2. Don't be late this time. Dale smiled slightly. After leaving the FBI, he and Sarah had built a successful business helping companies protect whistleblowers and expose corporate corruption. Their firm's reputation for integrity had made them the go-to consultants for businesses wanting to clean up their operations. His next stop was a small cafe in San Francisco's financial district. Roxanne Herman sat at their usual table, 2 coffee cups already waiting. "How'd it go?" she asked as he settled into his chair. "No new information. Just wanted to play mind games." Roxanne nodded, unsurprised. McLaughlin's the same. Keeps requesting meetings, claiming he has evidence about other conspiracies. It's all manipulation. How's the investigation into their remaining assets? Almost complete. Roxanne sipped her coffee. We've frozen everything we could find. Most of it's going to a victim compensation fund. Julie and Huber rolled over on their last few hidden accounts in exchange for a reduced sentence. And Spencer Gill? Dead. Roxanne's expression hardened. Apparent heart attack in his cell last week. But we found traces of a specialized meridian compound in his bloodstream. Someone didn't want him talking anymore. Dale absorbed this information, thinking of the complex web of corruption they'd exposed. Even now, 5 years later, new threads kept emerging. "The whistleblowers?" he asked. "Doing well mostly. The support program you set up has helped. Most have new jobs, new lives. A few are working with advocacy groups, helping other corporate whistleblowers come forward." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city move around them. Dale's phone buzzed again, a message from Michael Chun, his former assistant. Now running his own ethical investment firm, Michael had become a leading voice for corporate accountability. "You know," Roxanne said carefully, "the deputy director position in the corporate crime division is still open. Your experience, your connections. I'm done with federal service." Dale's tone was gentle but firm. "The private sector lets me choose my battles. Help people directly, and it lets you keep your distance from cases like Taylor's." Dale didn't deny it. "How much longer will you stay in?" "Until the job's done." Roxanne straightened her shoulders. "Someone has to keep fighting the good fight from the inside." Speaking of fighting, Dale checked his watch. "I should head to that client meeting. Sarah will kill me if I'm late again." "How is Sarah?" "Still dating that tech whistleblower. Engaged now. Small ceremony planned for spring." Dale stood, dropping cash for the coffee. "You're invited, of course. Wouldn't miss it." Outside, Dale paused to enjoy the warm autumn air. His phone showed another message, this one from Judith. "Board approved the new whistleblower protection program. Implementation starts next month. Thank you for your guidance." He typed a quick reply, remembering how far they'd all come. Judith and Leonard, turning Meridian's ruins into something positive. Sarah and Michael, using their experiences to protect others. Roxanne, continuing the fight from within the system. And himself? The broken arm had healed stronger, just like the rest of him. The trust issues lingered, but they'd made him better at his job, more attuned to deception, more committed to truth. His car chirped as he approached, and Dale caught his reflection in the window. Gray touched his temples now, and faint lines marked the corners of his eyes. But his gaze was clear, unburdened by the weight of betrayal that had haunted him 5 years ago. Taylor and McLaughlin would serve their time. Their empire of lies now, just cautionary tales and corporate ethics seminars. Their victims had found justice. Their whistleblowers had found peace. And their web of corruption had been exposed to sunlight. Dale's phone buzzed one final time, a message from Leonard. "Judith says you should come to dinner. We're celebrating something." He smiled, typing back in acceptance. This was his life now, building connections based on honesty, fighting corruption from the outside, helping others heal from betrayal. The broken places had mended stronger, and the truth had finally set him free. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows as Dale drove toward his office. In a prison cell in Dublin, Taylor would be returning to her daily routine, counting days until her next parole hearing. In another cell in Lompoc, McLaughlin would be plotting his next appeal, his empire of cards long since collapsed. But here, in the world they'd tried to corrupt, justice had prevailed. The truth had emerged. And those who'd fought for it had found something better than power. They'd found purpose. Dale parked outside his office building, straightening his tie as he prepared for the client meeting. The security firm's logo caught the sunlight. Cooper and Shun Consulting, protecting truth, empowering change. 5 years ago, he'd thought Taylor's betrayal would destroy him. Instead, it had set him on a path to something greater. Sometimes the deepest wounds led to the most important healing. Sometimes the worst betrayals sparked the strongest commitments to truth. And sometimes, Dale thought as he walked into his office to help another whistleblower find their voice, the broken places really did heal stronger than before.